The best writer in the world is God, and his greatest work is the history of the world, not to be confused with the works of J.M. Roberts or Mel Brooks. If you flip through the chapters of his book, you will learn that God is a peerless writer of the characters. His movers and shakers such as Zoroaster, Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, Nanak, Caligula, Attila the Hun, Ivan the Terrible, Bloody Mary, and Vlad the Impaler are the quintessence of light and darkness. His landmark love stories are spread from Shah Jahan and Mumtaz in the east to the Duke of Windsor and Wallis Simpson in the west. God's whodunit masterpieces are the cryptic earthquakes, tsunamis, and mortal diseases God strikes humans with, while Judas and Brutus are the classic betrayals. Trojan and World War I are the devastating acts of revenge. The book runs in several volumes and is far from completion yet. In juxtaposition, writers of historical fiction are the confessors and repairmen of God's faux pas. They lend ears to the horrible mistakes made by the divinity and translate most of them into human foibles. With the exception of the Greek and Roman legends, the West has meager history compared to the Middle East, India, or China. Africa and South America have antiquity, but a few dramatic myths or historic legends. Yet, only between Ken Follett, Philippa Gregory, and Georgette Heyer, there may be more than 100 books in the genre of historical fiction if we overlook the rest of the writers. From the various recent brilliant outings in this genre, the story that shines bright is a gem called The Book Thief, written poignantly by Marcus Zusak, the writer of young adult novels. It's the story of a God-forsaken young girl in the midst of the Holocaust in Nazi Germany, and the story is narrated by the death. We hope some of the young adult writers have a change of faith someday and take after Zusak. Curiously, despite India being the land of endless and bottomless myths, legends and history, from the time of Vedas to Panchtantra to the 20th century partition of India, our contribution to this realm has been poor. We have some notable works in India in this genre, starting with Hindi. There is Acharya Chatursen's Dharamputra, a classic, Bhisham Sahani's Tamas, Kamleshwar's Kitne Pakistan, a peerless masterpiece. In Urdu, there is Qurratullah and Haidar's Aag Ka Darya, spanning 2000 years of India. In Punjabi, we have the great Nanak Singh's Khoon de Soile and Amrita Pritam's Pinjar. In English, we have Khushwant Singh's Train to Pakistan and Priya Hajela's Lady's Tailor. Most of these stories recount the tragedy of partition, which defies expression. And in Bangla, Devaroti Mukhopadhyay's Narach is the retelling of indentured slavery for the Caribbean sugar plantations in times of colonial Bengal. The story features characters such as Rabindranath Tagore and Wajid Ali Shah in its narrative. One of the most disturbing retelling of India's partition is Manto's Urdu short story titled Khol Do. It's about the violation of a 17-year-old Muslim girl by a group of Muslim disaster volunteers trusted by the girl's father to find and save her. They abandon her near death on the railway tracks. In the frenzy of carnage, the story moves the reader to shock and nausea. Let's talk about Radhika Swarup, the writer of the book Where the River Parts. Radhika was an investment banker who succumbed to the lure of the lore while counting the number of muses. She read economics at Cambridge but decided to change her faith by moving from Lakshmi to Saraswati. That may have happened after learning that literati such as Marlowe, Byron, Milton, Coleridge, Thackeray, and the one and only Sylvia Plath were her Cambridge alumni. Radhika's writings reflect her laical worldview, which she possibly owes to her exposure to a diversity of cultures during her father's career as a diplomat. Where the River Parts is a skillfully written fiction laid over the most unfortunate event in the history of India, the bifurcation of land into two countries claimed by opposing gods or the godmen. The tragedy took over 1 million lives and displaced another 15 million people. There are 1,001 tales of heart-rending brutalities only men are capable of using against each other. Beasts just carry the burden of the moniker. The story rolls out in what is Pakistan now, in a time when gods resided in people's hearts and not heads. The Hindu family of Asha lived in complete harmony next door to the Muslim family of her boyfriend Firoz and his sister Nargis, her classmate and best friend. His fellow lawyer Om's proposal of marriage with Asha is not considered favorably by Asha's family. The frenzy of migration fell upon people on both sides of the partition in a day, resulting in a restive tide of delirious masses in exodus. Asha not only lost her family in the egress but also Firoz's baby she was carrying, Sabroza, while Firoz remained in Pakistan. In a track through the fire and brimstone, she reaches Delhi, where Om gives her refuge. She marries Om but is unable to conceive due to her abortion and adopts the baby of a Muslim destitute called Sanam, whom she had sheltered. Sanam was raped in the journey of migration by savages from the creed of some unknown gods. The story moved forward to New York a few decades afterwards, where Lana, the granddaughter of Asha, is in love with Hussein, the grandson of Nargis, who has passed away by now. Lana's mother, unaware that her own mother was a Muslim girl named Sanam, rejects Lana's betrothal to Hussein for being a Muslim. Serendipity once again brings Asha face to face with Firoz in New York, who had chosen not to marry after losing Asha. Indian partition is a tragedy above and beyond the might of Euripidean and Shakespearean quill, even if they had to fictionalize it. Whenever gods are stood in the dock for using demons such as Mao, Stalin, Mussolini, Hitler, Potpol, and a few score more as their instruments for slaying innocent people living in peace, politicians responsible for the Indian partition must be dragged from their graves to bear witness to the hand of God in that apocalypse. Radhika's retelling borrows the classic elements from the tragedy of partition itself, which a writer presumably imagines. However, she has done an admirable job in turning it into a story that lays bare the scars tragedy has left on the psyche of generations on both sides of the divide. There are odds and ends in the story that evoke the emotions of Acharya Chatursen's classic Dharamputra and Manohar Shyam Joshi's written Bunyad in Hindi. For a debut, Radhika shows the promise to stand in the column that began with Bhudev Mukhopadhyay and was nurtured by the father of Indian historical fiction, Bankim Chand Chatterjee, who wrote Kapala Kundula, Durgesh Nandini, Anand Math, and many such classics. It seems as if historical fiction in India is still pretty much a Bangla domain, where writers like Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni, Amitabh Ghosh, Neelam Saran Gaur, Sunil Gangopadhyay, who sadly passed away, and Aruna Chakraborty are holding the fort. Although there are growing incursions from the likes of late Kiran Nagarkar, Indu Sundaresan, Ahmad Ali, and a few more, which thankfully is expanding the genre. Talking about the bugs, the glossary or the footnotes for the native idiom are missing, which the Western readers may find frustrating. Furthermore, the end seems a bit rushed when the story leaps 50 years forward, disregarding the chapters relating to the journey of Asha's next generation. It appears that books such as 100 Years of Solitude and A Suitable Boy have made readers greedy. They want more for their money. Blissfully, there is a growing interest in Western readers in Indian literature who are discovering India beyond Gandhi, Ravi Shankar, Neem Karoli Baba, Slumdog Millionaire, and Bikram's Hot Yoga. And we have a lot to thank the Indian origin writers in the West for it.